This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. Your war room for insider news and draft analysis from deep within the confines of Cowboys headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
The Dallas Cowboys select T.D. Lamb, wide receiver.
And now, your hosts, Dane Brugler, Jeff Kavanaugh, Kevin Turner, and Kyle Yeomans.
We are just over a month away from the NFL draft. 35 days remain until Cleveland, Ohio becomes the center of the NFL world and becomes, well, of course, the center of the NFL draft. And we are the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show, investigating and educating for all of you out there about these draft prospects, about what the Cowboys might do, and, of course, the updates that come along as well. And we've got plenty of them with pro days and injury news and all sorts of things that we've hit on Tuesday, but I do want to get the thought process on these three as well. Dane Brugler, Kevin KT Turner, we've got Jeff Kavanaugh, I'm Kyle Yeomans. Glad you're with us. And, well, Jeff, I want to talk to you first about this because I just feel like you would have a great answer to it. But I do want to hit the Kayla Farley news again with the back surgery. Wanted to get your take on it really quickly. We won't go in depth on this, but what does the back surgery do and the injury news coming out about Kayla Farley do to his draft stock on your board?
Well, for me, and I think Dane will probably be able to speak for the NFL better, but for me personally, I would immediately eliminate, like, we're talking about a top 10 pick and a guy who didn't play last year, and even without playing last year, had to have a repeat of something to relieve back pain. I'm terrified of backs. I'm terrified of necks. So for me, Caleb Farley just became a guy that I'll keep my eye on it and see what my doctors think, and then tell me if he falls all the way to 44 because of it. And seeing some of the national guys still mocking him in the top 10 or 12 and saying they don't think it's a big deal. I don't know if that's a reflection of the NFL, but for me, out. We're talking Jaycee Horn and Patrick Surtain as your corner options at number 10, and Caleb Farley is out of there. That's just me, but he's out of there. Out of there. Bye.
Well, he's going to fall. I mean, that he has to, unfortunately, and it's really too bad. The timing of this is interesting. He has not played since last season, so having this procedure now, what does that tell you? It tells you something happened, right? Yep. You know, weight training or just his workouts. Something happened recently that is causing the timing to be now, and that's a little troublesome. It's his second back procedure, and this is also a guy that has an ACL tear in college. So factor in all the medical things, and it's tough to see him going in a top 20, top 25. I mean, that's just my guess. There might be a team that has a much more of an appetite for risk and are willing to take that chance. So you never say never, but when you just factor in everything, I would be surprised if he goes, at that high. Talking about in the top half of round one. So. I don't have a good answer in terms of where he's going to go because each team's going to view it differently. Each medical staff is going to speak on it differently. We just, talking to the conversations I've had with people around the league about it, they've all kind of shrugged their shoulders and said, we just got to wait and see. And a lot of them said that he should be able to rehab fine and play. Yeah. But then the question becomes, okay, well, when's the next thing pop up? When's that next thing?
And Kyle, let me just throw this in because you asked, what does it do on your board? Because I don't believe in what the Cowboys do with injured guys. Because I interviewed Will McClay about this one time about the Jalen Smith pick, and he told me we put the guys on the board where their talent dictates. So Jalen Smith was in the first round for them, and then when they get to the second round, they go, "Oh, remember now this guy. Now what should we do with him?" And I think that's dead wrong. So for me personally, I'm just assuming exactly what Dane said about Caleb Farley, right? That he's going to have something done to his back, and now that's 2. He's had the knee. But I'm going to assume that team doctors are saying, hey, he's going to be all right, and he's going to play football, and it's going to be all good, right? And given that, he is now my cornerback 7. Wow. That's where I put him. Wow. I put him behind the guys that I feel really good about. Horn, Surtain, Newsome, Kelvin Joseph, Asante Samuel, Elijah Molden, and then I'll bet on Farley. Now, I bet NFL teams, somebody's going to take him higher than that, But that's what I would do, because the other 6 guys. Well, I guess Kelvin Joseph, you have other concerns, and so maybe you wouldn't be there with me. But that's what I would do. Is I would put him right behind the group of corners that I feel really good about as top 40 picks, and then I'll put Farley in.
I put him at cornerback 4 myself. So it's same type of deal. The cornerbacks I feel really good about, which is Surtain, Horn, Newsome, and then I put Farley. So sorry, KT, go ahead.
Well, no. This is where I think like historical context is a little interesting to me, because I couldn't find like that back injury situation specifically, but I thought of the Eagles drafting Sidney Jones after the Achilles hit. That went pick 43. The other one I thought of was the
which didn't
Buffalo
work
Bills,
out.
Which did not work out at all.
Right.
And the other one I thought of was, I would say probably hasn't worked out very well either, is if you remember Reggie Ragland.
Yeah.
And that was a heart thing, but that was still a second round pick. Usually, like, for some reason, teams are willing to spend on the second round on those types of things. And again, I haven't done the full injury historical thing on that, but like those two immediately came to mind when I thought about this. And I immediately went, well, he's there for you at 45, and I think that is the question. I'm with Jeff. Like my third corner going in was, my fourth corner before all this happened was Eric Stokes. Well, I will take Eric Stokes before I take Caleb Farley.
Yeah,
now.
I think I would too.
Newsome was next. I will take Newsome way before I take Caleb Farley. Asante Samuel, I would take him before I took Caleb Farley. Elijah Molden, I would take him before I got to Caleb Farley. The line that I got to was Aaron Robinson, Melifonwu, Kelvin Joseph. That's where I go, you know what, I would probably still take Farley over those guys. The thing is, too, it's not black and white. We can learn more about his back in the coming month, too.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah, well, and the other, another example, Montez Sweat 2 years ago. Remember, he had the heart issue. And, we were thinking, okay, was he going to fall to the 6th round like the Michigan defensive tackle did? Maurice Hurst. I mean, what was Montez Sweat going to go? And he ends up still going in the first round, late first round. And so far, that's worked out okay. He's been a solid to very good player for Washington. So, that's an example of the flip side where the issues, the doubt, the risk was there with we're talking about medically, and worked out okay for the Washington football team.
Supposed to be a mid-July return, according to Drew Rosenhaus, for Caleb Farley. So that could potentially give these teams a little bit of hope. I wrote about that yesterday on the website. But Dane, I want to put you on the spot here a little bit. And KT made a great point. We're still going to learn about this back surgery and specifics about the medicals as we get up in the final month of this draft. However, if you had to put a percentage on it, what is a percentage that Farley does fall to 44 for the Cowboys? That's the first question. The second question is, would they consider taking him at 44 if they wanted to either double dip at corner or if they didn't take a corner in the first round?
I don't know. I really don't, because it's just there have been times when I thought, no way the Cowboys are going to draft this guy, or because of injuries, and they've had him on the board. Other times, I wasn't aware of a more serious issue, and the Cowboys didn't have him on the board because of that. He was a box player for them. So, it's hard to say because each one of these medical things are so different from team to team. I would say it's more unlikely than likely that Caleb Farley is there at 44. I think he still goes somewhere top 40. That would be my bet at this point, just based on what we know. But like KT said, we're going to learn more and more, and there's a lot of the medical stuff that needs to be hashed out. But I would say it's more like, I don't know, 80-20. He goes somewhere in the top 40 picks.
Okay, good to know.
That's just my guess. Informal guess based off of what we know this very second.
And can I add to that, because I wonder what, part of your question was, would you double dip with him at 44? And I think I would. I think I'd be more scared of having, if you didn't go corner first and then Farley falls in your lap, I'd be more scared of that.
Agreed. Because
now you're relying on him to be that dude. And I would much rather have him be kind of a bonus where you're like, man, this could really be awesome, but we also picked a different guy. Almost like I hope they do a free safety. I hope they sign KZ, and I hope they pick a guy in the first 3 rounds so that they feel good about the spot. I would not want to pick Caleb Farley at 44 if I hadn't picked a corner, or if I did, I would say, okay, now pick another one.
Now, let's talk about those corners that we could pick on the front end of that double dip, and that's Patrick Surtain, and I guess Jaycee Horn is now in that conversation as well. I mean, this is a guy we've talked about for quite some time. I mean, we've all been very adamant about having him at least in the top 3 conversation. Now he's in the top 2 conversation, or is he maybe even cornerback 1, Jeff? I know you put that in our group text. Is that something that you actually believe? Do you think Horn's better than Surtain? Because you wouldn't be alone in that fact.
Yeah, and I think the more and longer I do this, the less I kind of get dug in on like this guy over this guy and this guy over there. It's more about, to me, kind of the scouting report versus the exactly how you have him stacked. Mm-hmm. But I love Jaycee Horn. I love the way that he plays. I think you're comparing 2 guys that are 3-year starters in the SEC that have been really good football players, and it's just a matter of sort of preference. But my preference is Jaycee Horn. I think Surtain's rock solid at pretty much everything. I think if you wanted to compare floors, I think I would probably feel a little bit safer with Surtain. But to me, there's a lot of appeal that Jaycee Horn is a guy that gets off the bus or plane or however they travel, and the coach goes, hey, that's their best guy. And Jaycee says, gotcha, coach. If he lines up at tight end, he's mine. If he's in the slot, he's mine. If he's on the right, the left, he's mine. That is Jaycee Horn. I think it's pretty clear who both of them are at this point, where you say, okay, Patrick Surtain, you have one question, and that one question is, and neither one of them did the shuttles, but like with Patrick Surtain, how good are we at the speed and the quickness in short spaces and adjustments and makeup? That's the one question. And with Jaycee Horn, the one question is, can I get you to stop grabbing on literally every play? And that's who they are. And I like the guy who covers guys no matter where they go. I like the guy that's going to annoy a wide receiver or tight end all day. Jaycee Horn for me is cornerback 1. And I think if you picked either one of those guys at 10, you've made a fine pick.
I think you could, really make a strong argument for either one of these players. And I think, what Jeff, I agree with a lot of what Jeff just said in terms of Surtain having the higher floor. You just have a better idea of what he brings. You wish he had a little better twitch, but that's not his game. He's not the most twitchy player. But I love with Surtain just how the game slows down for him and how controlled he plays. I'm taking that guy 10 times out of 10. Now, I still really like Jaycee Horn, but, how over-aggressive he plays. Just a flag magnet, 5 penalties in 7 games this past year in 2020. That's his game. I'd rather have a guy like that and try to bring him back and add more discipline to his game, as opposed to a guy that you try to crank up and be more aggressive. So I'm still fine with Jaycee Horn there, but this is a player that he's not a great tackler. Way too many missed tackles. That bothered me a little bit for a guy that's as aggressive as he is. The ball production.
He just throws his body around. He's not afraid to tackle. He's just not a good tackler.
Right. He'll drop his eyes and just throw his body around. That's exactly what he does. And then I didn't love the ball production. Both his picks came in one game, and then the other 29 games he had 0 picks. Solid in terms of pass breakups, but not the best ball production for a player you're considering in the top 10. But I do really like Jaycee Horn. Hey, Mike McCarthy at one time coached his dad, so there's a little bit of a connection there, family connection. I don't know.
That's how he picks his backup quarterbacks. Is which guy does his family know from middle school? So
I think fans would be appalled at some of the nepotism and some of the different connections that led to some draft picks and hirings and all that. So it's kind of crazy. All that stuff is relevant.
No, you're.
And I would just say, go ahead, Kyle.
No, go for it, KT.
Well, I'll be quick. I was just saying, for me, the discussion, Jeff's been on this for a month, and Dane, you might have been on this for a month of talking. We should be talking about Horn at 10. To me, at 10, Jaycee Horn is still a bit of a reach, but that doesn't mean I hate the guy. I still like the player. He's my 17th overall player, and he was 18 before the Farley thing happened. So it's still a little bit of a what are you doing at 10? And Surtain is a little safer. the thing that bothers me, and I'm a bit of I'm kind of contradicting myself here because Farley's not some great tackler or anything, and I really love Farley's tape, but I've really tried to prioritize tackling after a few things. One, being real high on Grant Delpit from LSU. Two, that whole Bill Belichick and Nick Saban documentary on HBO. Like, hey, I'm not going to ignore what these guys are saying in this documentary. And the first thing they talk about when looking for a defender, especially a defensive back, is can they tackle? And Surtain has like foundational skills as a tackler. You do not see that with Jaycee Horn. And you don't always see him doing a good job of getting off blocks on the outside and things like that. But again, I like Jaycee Horn a lot. I just, at 10, if Zertan is there, I'll do it. If Zertan is not there, I'm happy to pick Horn at 10, but I need to know what else is there because that would not be my number one option. I can guarantee you that he will not be my number one option at pick 10. He would not be the highest ranked player on my board.
With that being said, and with the Farley news coming out, initially, whenever Jaycee Horn's name was brought up, he was brought up in a trade-back scenario. He was brought up as a person you could maybe fall back in the draft, go to the late teens, and hope he falls to you. How likely is that now? Because he's going to be the second corner taken off the board, most likely. I don't want to put in absolutes right now, of course, because it's the NFL draft. But he's probably going to be the second corner off the board. So does it make it less likely, or at least less far you would have to drop in order to keep him on your board, KT, if you wanted him to be in your lap at, let's say, in the late teens?
Well, yeah, I think that's what teams might be coming up for now is cornerback 1. What if teams have Surtain as their clear cornerback 1? That might be something you come up for. Rashawn Slater might be something you come up for. Kyle Pitts might be something you come up for, or one of the quarterbacks. And maybe one of the top 3 wide receivers, but I probably feel less certain about that given how much wide receiver depth there is. But that might be that's where some of the action might be. Or the idea that some teams go, I got to get ahead of Dallas. Dallas might want to take a cornerback at 10.
True.
Let me jump up to 9, where Denver is, and get there. And Denver, I think, very well could take a corner. I don't know if signing Ronald Darby stops them. I don't know if getting Kyle Fuller stops them completely from getting a cornerback. They might still get some of that action with Fangio as the head coach. So, I think that's a possibility. But, I think Denver could also get the heck out of there. So, to me, it's an ideal situation to trade back. But I've said it a million times, and you guys know it. Look, you can't guarantee the phone's going to ring. They wanted the phone to ring when they picked Jalen Smith.
True.
The phone didn't ring.
You don't trade back with a specific goal of landing Jaycee Horn. You trade back with a group of 3 or 4 names that you're comfortable with. And maybe Jaycee Horn's at the top of that list, but you're equally comfortable with a Greg Newsome or whoever else. Because I think if you're trading back, you're going to be disappointed because there'd be a good chance Jaycee Horn's off the board by the time you're picking.
And corner is too premier a position to play games with that.
True.
If you like him, you pick him. Even if you think, oh man, this is 4 spots early. I wish I could pick him at 15 or 6. Pick him. It's too important a position.
Yeah.
Especially whenever it's these top prospects and you're splitting hairs back and forth to try and figure out who is who and where they rank. Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, Jeff. I think that's a great way to put it.
No, honestly, BPA is still going to be an offensive player. We don't have to acknowledge that, but BPA is still going to be an offensive player.
It's true. Does this make, just real quickly before we go into Twitter on the 20, but does this make it more likely that Rashawn Slater is the pick outside of Surtain or Horn?
I think, and I could be wrong, I think they're realistic board. We're being realistic here. We're rolling out. It's not fun to roll out wide receivers, but just for the sake of this conversation, I think their board is Sewell, Surtain, Slater, Pitts.
Wow. So you have Surtain above Slater?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I think they would do. I've got Slater graded quite a bit higher than Surtain.
Oh, okay. You're talking in the shoes of the Cowboys front office.
You just put Kyle Pitts behind 3 other humans?
That's what they would do. I don't have him there.
Kyle effing Pitts?
He's my 3rd rated player. I think they would do that.
Kyle Pitts is going to be in a Marvel movie one day because he's a superhero with superpowers. You be nice to Kyle Pitts.
No CGI needed.
Yeah, right. Does all his own stunts.
Oh,
exactly.
No, Magneto's here, and Kyle Pitts runs a post corner and dunks on his head.
Wow. Okay, my mind's taking me places now. So, with the Cowboys, I mean, we don't know what their board's going to look like, but I do think that Jaycee Horn essentially probably replaces Farley, but we don't know, where Slater and Pitts and the corners where they fall in terms of what they want. I think it's tough to know that. I mean, at this point, 3 years ago, we were starting to see that, okay, Leighton Vander Esch, this is their guy. We were starting to see that around this time. And so I still think that we're entering the point in the process where we're picking up clues and starting to figure it out.
I think that's kind of what this part of the draft process is picking up those clues and trying to figure it out. So we're trying to do it the best we can here on the Draft Show, and we're going to try and answer your questions the best we can whenever we come back on the other side of the break. It's time for some Twitter on the 20. We'll do that next when we return on the Draft Show, presented by Miller Lite.
Sometimes nothing beats a classic. Miller Lite, the original light beer, brewed with great taste and only 96 calories, available for delivery. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories, 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
We're back with a tasty treat that's sweeping airwaves and taste buds. It's new Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda. Let's take a listen.
Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda's here. A new combo that's music to my ears, okay. Let's play. Cream Soda and Dr. Pepper time. Pour it in a glass of ice.
Ah, music to my ears and mouth. New Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda.
A delicious duet.
Hey, Cowboys fans, if you're thinking about attending a game this season, visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today. Stay at the team hotel, have dinner with a Cowboys legend, and experience AT&T Stadium's exclusive VIP Owners Club. Also, tour the Star, get autographs from your favorite players, and talk X's and O's with me, Mickey Spagnola. The official travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys will take care of all your travel needs. Visit cowboystravel.com.
There's nothing as unique as our eyes, which is why Essilor pioneers ways to make lenses as unique as you. Verilux for super sharp vision, Essential Blue for protection, and Crizal for freedom from glare. 3 cutting-edge solutions in a single unique lens. So whatever your needs, insist on Essilor. Visit your local Essilor experts and find the perfect lens for you. See more, do more, Essilor.
Sometimes nothing beats a classic. Miller Lite, the original light beer, brewed with great taste and only 96 calories, available for delivery. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories, 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Back here for the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show, as it is a beautiful Thursday morning here from the Star, the SWBC Mortgage Studios. Time now for some Twitter on the 20.
Twitter on the 20.
As always, Chris Beam punching those buttons in the back and doing a fantastic job of doing so. And guys, we got through 6 whole questions on Tuesday's Twitter on the 20. It was a blazing start, and we've got 65 questions to answer on this edition. So let's try and get through as many as we potentially can. I'm going to rapid fire these at you. So I'm going to start with you, Dane. Where are you guys projecting Pete Werner, Ohio State? Where do you think he's going to potentially end up? That question coming from Jake.
I think he's probably late 3rd, early 4th, kind of like that borderline top 100. He's a quality player. I think the best thing about him is the versatility. You can leave him on the field all 4 downs, play special teams, can hold up in coverage. He's a very heady player. I love his eyes, the way he plays. He's always chasing. So I don't know that he's a playmaker. There's some inconsistent tendencies there, but plays with range. His sights are always on the football. So I want a player like that on my team. I don't want to necessarily have to pay a top 100 price for him, but I think if you can get him early day 3, 4th round, you're not gonna regret that pick.
I got him in the exact same spot. I think I am a sucker for what jumps out at you on tape from a guy. So Baron Browning, the Ohio State linebacker, he kind of has that for me.
Yeah.
Where it's wow, look at that burst. Look at the closing burst. Holy cow. And with Werner, it's just more kind of steady. And I'm man, your athleticism isn't jumping out. Playmaking ability isn't jumping out. Could he become an NFL starter? I guess. He's steady. But there was nothing about him that wowed me. And if you don't wow me with anything, you end up in the 4th round.
Yeah, no, for context, just where I have him, 4th round, I have him in the same area as, in terms of linebackers, Hufanga. I don't have Hufanga as a safety. And Monty Rice from Georgia, kind of in that 4th round area. And then, we have worse players in the 5th round, of course. But yeah, same way how I felt about Werner. I thought the best thing that he did that made me really, wake up was when he was blitzing. I thought that was his best attribute.
Now, I mapping out my top 100 that'll be up in the Athletic next week, and he was one of the first 5 that I left off.
Oh wow!
So he was very, very close, but just missed the cut for me.
So just barely missing the cut of the top 100. That's pretty good. I wish I was a top 100 on Dane's draft board. Let's go to Connor on Twitter. Connor NFL Draft. He does great work. But he said, what's the knock on Melifonwu? The physical and athletic traits are off the charts. He has impressive tape against top competition, such as Clemson and UNC. But what do you think about Melifonwu and his knock against really his draft stock early in this one? And Jeff, I know you've talked about him on multiple occasions.
Well, I think I don't want to actually speak for anybody else. I'll just speak for me. I don't think that having somebody as a second-round player is having a big knock on him. I think you can have other guys that you feel a little bit more comfortable with. I feel like Greg Newsome, when I watch him, I'm more comfortable watching him as a cover 3, as an ability to process what's happening around him, as a zone player. It's just a matter of when you start stacking up guys in individual rounds, to me, all you're doing is saying, the combination of everything that they have, I'm either more comfortable or I trust him more or I like that he can do more different things. I got Melifonwu as a second-round player, so I don't have major knocks on him. I love the athleticism. I think all you're doing is stacking up a bunch of guys that you like.
Can I just say one thing? First of all, one of my knocks here is that he doesn't put his mouthpiece in. So when he's backpedaling, his mouthpiece is bouncing around and dangling off his helmet, and that really bothers me. But I noticed this, and I don't want to come across as, hey, tuck your shirt in, kid. But I noticed a few times where he takes steps off. Not taking plays off necessarily, but would sometimes take steps off. There's a play, and what game is that in? Let's see if I have it right here. There's a play... I don't know what game it was. I'm sorry. But there's a play where he had shown this tendency throughout the game. It might have been North Carolina. He had shown this tendency throughout the game to just kind of, if the ball's going the other side, okay, that's fine. Just kind of, we're not working real hard. Well, the quarterback then, this is in the second half, the quarterback looks to the right and then comes back to the left real quickly on a slant route, and he gets torched. And I'm like, dude, you weren't ready to go on that snap. And you would see it multiple times. There were snaps where he just wasn't ready to go. I love the player. I think he's great. I just think a little tightening up on discipline. Dude, he was an alpha at Syracuse, right? So it's I get it. You don't have to take every play 100% go, like you're Rudy, right? He's not that type of deal. But that was a thing that did bother me. And I don't know if there's a little bit of knowing what we knew about his older brother thrown into that, but maybe there is. I'm only human.
His brother didn't play very hard. He does.
Yeah, and look, he's guilty of coasting at times too, but he's supposed to, talking to everybody I've talked to says he's just wired differently than his brother. So that's good. I don't know that's as big of a concern. For me, another guy, kind of like Horn, where it just makes way too much contact. I think he had 6 flags last year alone. So, a guy that's physical, and that's great. I'm not saying he should be a 4th rounder. It's just one of those things that is, I would take a little bit of issue with. Needs to dial it back. Needs to be more disciplined. He's so long-legged that it takes him just a half second to unfurl those long legs and to turn and go. And sometimes against really speedy receivers, it'll be a lot more obvious. So, he's a really good player. But when you're in this cornerback class and you're stacking Melifonwu with guys like Stokes and Tyson Campbell and Kelvin Joseph and all these corners that are in that second round range, it's the smallest little details that might be the difference for some teams.
I definitely think so. And I mean, it's a question that's going to continue to be asked about. I mean, his taking plays off. I mean, KT brought up a great point. I'm going to have to go back and watch that North Carolina game because I want to see exactly what you're talking about. This next question comes from Larry, and while we're talking about safeties that are right in that area, how about Jamar Johnson, safety from Indiana? And this is a guy who we were asked about on Tuesday. We didn't really know a whole lot about it, and that was a homework assignment for us. But, I mean, he's graded really high on a couple of draft boards. But, Dane, where do you have him on yours?
Well, he did make my top 100.
Wow.
So there's that. I do worry about him as a run defender. And that's why I think he's number 100, actually. So that's why he's not 100 and not, in the top 60 or top 50, is he's a little choosy as a tackler at times. And that bugs me. But this is a guy that's fluid. He's got range. He can go make plays on the ball, just as Justin Fields. He just a really rangy corner or safety who can play both sidelines. He had 4 interceptions this past year in only 8 games. There's a lot to like about what he offers in the back half of the field.
Yeah, I mean, I only seen one game, so I don't have a ton of credentials to speak on him. I didn't see the like explosive type traits. It's like I had decent speed and things like that. So that's still hard to tell. Got more work to do on him, and I just got the Maryland game. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think I have more work to do on him as well. I haven't really watched him at all. I didn't get a chance yesterday. I'm going to do that today, though, and I'm going to tweet about it as well whenever I'm watching him. All right, so this next one, I think this is a great question from Mike on Twitter. He said, take away all the other factors. If you could pick one linebacker to fit Dan Quinn's new defensive system and plug him into this defense, which of those would you choose? And Jeff, he singled you out on this question. He said, besides Jeff, who will take Nick Bolton regardless of fit. But if that's your choice, that's your choice. But if you had to choose a linebacker out of this draft class to fit this new defense, which one would you choose?
Well, that's a terrible question because the answer is too easy. I mean, I'm taking JOK.
Yeah.
If I just get to pick whoever I want, I'm taking, because now we're assuming that Dan Quinn, we're drawing a picture of sort of a cover 3, and then I'm drawing a picture of the speed linebackers that he's had with him with Deion Jones in Atlanta. And so I'm going, okay, don't mind undersized, and you want guys that can fly around and make tackles for loss, then I would go Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I think that would be my easy one. Micah Parsons will fit anything. But, yeah, I'll go undersized, fly around, make plays in the backfield. I'll go JOK.
And they just signed Keanu Neal to play that role. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
True.
They already got him.
Is that what you would choose, KT?
Oh, yeah. No, that's the fit right there. Now, if you wanted to, well, it's too late now, but if you wanted to go ahead and do the Jalen thing, then, hey, we can talk about Nick Bolton, and we can talk about Zaven Collins, and we can have that fun. But, we don't need to.
When's Kentucky's pro day? I want to see how Jamin Davis tests. I'm a big fan of his. I just want to see how he tests.
It's a great question.
Dane, do you know when Kentucky's pro day is?
Yeah,
I think it's next week, but...
What the hell?
Yeah, it's probably somewhere.
I don't...
You don't have every pro day on the top of your head?
That's unfortunate.
No, I do not. March 31st.
Every player.
All right.
Okay, so yeah, later in the week.
March 31st, yeah.
This next question comes from Carson. He said, what are some of the weaknesses of Jalen Phillips, the edge rusher out of Miami, and not counting his injuries? So no injury, red flags. What are the weaknesses from Mr. Jalen Phillips?
I think it seems like a lot of people have momentum for him as the top edge rusher in the class. I tell you, to me, Dane or KT can take you through all the medical history, which is obviously there. I think Jalen Phillips is a good pass rusher because I think that he's a developed pass rusher. Like, we talk about it a lot with guys, do you have a plan? And I think he has ways that he can win inside and out. I like the body type. I think that there's a lot to like. I don't think he's a great run player. Like, I don't think he has great natural power, and I don't think that he's a, quote, bendy guy in terms of turning the corner. I think he's more linear. But I think he's a good pass rusher with a plan, his feet, with his hands and his feet that can win inside and out. So in this pass rush class, I think that there's a solid chance that that's a first-round pick. But I don't think that I think he's a good prospect, not necessarily a great prospect.
Okay, I want to say this in the most respectful way possible, because this is the part of the job that's easy for me to talk about because I don't have to do it. We need to find out more about him because, A, I can't have a moped guy. He got hit by a car when he was on a moped, broke his wrist. 2, the music thing. I'm serious.
Okay.
He can play like multiple instruments and wants to like produce music, and his grandpa's like a dean of music at a university. Is he more talented as a musician than a football player? He might be. Legitimately, that might be the case. Like, truly, and I agree with Jeff. I didn't see a good run player, but I saw a guy who could find a way to get to the quarterback, and a guy who could get in the backfield pretty consistently, and that's good enough to go top 15 for me.
No, music's his first passion. He said that. So, that's something that is at least discussed with NFL scouts. With Jalen Phillips, I got flashbacks. You see little flashes of the Bosa's because like what Jeff and KT were talking about with just how developed he is as a pass rusher, with the way he'll use his hands, how he's more smooth and sudden. And so he has a plan when he attacks the pocket, and he can win in different ways. He'll use a two-handed swipe, or he'll dip his shoulder and work the edge. He can win in these different ways, and he's very calculated. But it's not also at the same time it's not robotic. It's very natural for him. So there's a lot to like about Jalen Phillips. But you can't ignore the off-field, can't ignore the medicals, that kind of thing, and that's certainly could be an anchor on his draft grade. He's a tough guy to project. He has first-round ability. Is he going to go in the first round? Maybe he might, but he might fall to the second round.
It's definitely been a fun player to listen to, or watch during his times. I mean, I guess he's a fun player to listen to as well. Whenever you talk about his music. How about Roy on Twitter? He said, obviously, we aren't looking for a quarterback 1 in this draft, but is there a QB 2 that would be worth talking about, or as an undrafted free agent?
I don't know. Any of these quarterbacks.
You can do it, Dane.
I mean, I like Davis Mills a lot, but they're not drafting a quarterback in the first 4 rounds.
I was about to say, he'd go pretty high, right?
I think he's got a shot to go on day 2. I don't know. Maybe if like a Kyle Trask falls far enough, maybe I consider that. But I still probably going to go higher than I would want to draft him. I don't know. Ian Book, I'd be if we're talking 7th round and Ian Book's still around, I'd be okay with that. I like Ian Book quite a bit as a late round guy because of his mobility and what he brings in that respect. So. Ian Book would be, if I'm the Cowboys and I'm looking 6th, 7th round and I want to throw a dart at a quarterback, I'd be comfortable with Ian Book.
Well, just a reminder, when you're talking about Kyle Trask, Nussmeier recruited Kyle Trask to Florida. And, of course, Nussmeier here is the quarterback coach for the Cowboys. Plus, Dan Quinn, I know this is on the defensive side of the football, but he was down there as well during that time. So, I don't know. Maybe there is a Florida connection on the offensive side of the football, but maybe Kyle Trask is in that conversation. Now, I had a couple questions that asked this. Is there a potential we should be talking about Christian Barmore, the defensive tackle from Alabama, at 10? Because I feel like we've kind of pigeonholed that pick to the cornerbacks in either Surtain or Horn, or in terms of offensive tackle or Kyle Pitts. I mean, that's kind of where we're at with pick number 10. But is there any chance whatsoever that Christian Barmore slips into that?
If they do it, be disappointed in your football team. That's too early. I mean, I like Barmore's potential. But you got to realize, like, look, he was great in the college football playoff, and defensive tackles who can rush the passer have a lot of value. But if I'm going to pick a guy in the top 10, man, he better be a starter on his college football team. Alabama clearly didn't trust him as a run player. Like, he was not a full-time starter at Alabama. So, like, he's got a lot of good tools that you like for a defensive tackle. And if you can rush the quarterback up the middle, you've got value. But if they pick him at 10, honestly, I think Barmore in any other D-tackle class, he doesn't go in the first round. And in this one, maybe he does, because I think he's the best D-tackle prospect. But if he goes in the first, it's because of the class, not necessarily him.
I think that's fair. It's easy to sell Barmore because he's a guy that he doesn't stay blocked very long. He's too powerful. He's too active. He moves too well for a guy that's that size, 6'4", 320-ish pounds, and only a redshirt sophomore, 6 career starts. There's a lot of ability there waiting just to be untapped. But I agree with a lot of what Jeff said. And I'd also point out that defensive tackle is a position that this team just does not value in the first round. They haven't in a long time, and it would be against type and a big surprise if they went with Barmore at 10.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's around my 20th to 21st, rated player. It's just we're talking about picking 10th. The worst case scenario, like, I know there's been like so much chatter on positions and stuff, man. The worst case scenario is just busting on a guy, and who knows, and that could always happen. I think Barmore. The conversation with Barmore should only be about if you trade back or if you put your picks together and trade it up to the, if you put 44 and 75 together, you can get somewhere in the mid-20s, early to mid-20s, hopefully. If you maybe the Jets say, hey, we want pick 10, here's pick 23 and 34. All right, well, then we can start talking about Barmore.
Sure.
So that, to me, I think it's just too early right there at 10. We're in primo position at 10. We lost just enough games.
Just to sneak inside the top 10. Now, final question here before we take our next break. But Brian asked on Twitter, he said, if everyone thinks that Kyle Pitts, of course, tight end out of Florida, is a future pro Hall of Famer, how can you pass on him at 10? And I feel like this is a question right up the alley for Jeff Kavanaugh. And he said, why would your team do that? And could they trade Jarwin Schultz for anything if they decided to do so? That's a good question. I mean, if he's going to be a Hall of Famer, why not Kyle Pitts at 10?
The way you talk yourself out of Kyle Pitts, my answer is you don't. You can't pass on Kyle Pitts. You pick him. If he's available, you pick him, and I don't think he'll be available. That would be my guess. The only reason I could find is because I am a believer in any information I can get, and you can build the case of, hey, let's look at the history of tight ends in the NFL draft and what happens when you pick them in the first round. But then I also compare that to, I'm not here to scout helmets or the history of a position. Just because the NFL got it wrong and didn't pick Travis Kelce or George Kittle high enough is no reason to miss. If you believe in that Kyle Pitts is going to be an amazing NFL player, you pick him. It doesn't matter. I don't care what helmet sticker you wear. I don't care what the listed position is in the history of NFL teams picking them. Kyle Pitts is one of the 5 or 6 best players in the draft. If you have the opportunity to pick him at 10, you do, because he's the best player.
It reminds me of the Quentin Nelson conversation a few years ago, where you don't generally draft guards in the top 10, let alone the top 6 where he ended up going. But a lot of people, smart people around the league, thought he was the best player in the draft. So, I don't think he makes it to 10 for that reason. He's just one of the best players in the draft, regardless of position. And those guys, you just shouldn't pass on those guys. One of those teams is going to be like, we just can't pass on him. But if he's there at 10, I'm not going to be the guy that passes on Kyle Pitts. That would be my philosophy towards it. Now, I don't think it's fair to put the Hall of Fame label on him as for a guy that's never suited up in an NFL game before. But I think it's an easy guy to fall in love with because he's just very unique, very rare. Kyle Pitts, Kyle Pittses aren't just walking around. They're just very, very rare players, and so I'm jumping at the chance to add that to my offense.
He's going to the Eagles at 6.
Oh,
so.
God. You're probably right.
You have to.
Maybe.
Or 5.
Five's a possibility. Yeah, one of those teams are going to be like, we can't pass on him. He's just too good.
Yeah, you can't narrow it down to he plays tight end, and tight ends that were picked high haven't done well. What you have to narrow it down to is who is he, and the answer is if you're a corner who is 6 foot tall, you're not big enough to cover Kyle Pitts. If you are a human who is 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", you're not quick enough to cover Kyle Pitts. And if you're 6'4" and you are quick enough to cover Kyle Pitts, I got bad news for you. He's going to outplay you for the ball anyway. Like he's a stud. And
he's getting better and better and better.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to remember his trajectory. In high school, he was pretty much basically a blocker. All right, he didn't get a chance to show this off, and he was a late to tight end. He only played tight end his final 2 years of high school. His first year at Florida didn't do much. 2019 tape, a lot of drops. I still had him as my 11th player on the board in August because I was so infatuated with this athleticism for.
So we lost Dane, but he was making a great point on exactly what Kyle Pitts brings, and especially whenever it comes to picking him at 10. There's a part of me that just hopes that Kyle Pitts is not there at 10 because then the Cowboys don't have to worry about it. But also there's a part of me a huge part of me that doesn't want him to end up in the NFC East because I don't want to have to worry about him twice a year or against other teams, and that's my biggest thing. So whenever KT said 6 to the Eagles, it makes 1, way too much sense, and 2, scares the living daylights out of me. So overall, I would rather not have Kyle Pitts in that regard. But we're going to go ahead and step aside. That was Twitter on the 20. Fantastic questions, as always. Thank you for your support and for your questions. Hey, we got to a lot of them that time. I love that. When we come back, though, Kyle Pitts had a fantastic pro day, and so did some of those Cowboys top targets. We're going to round up some of the pro days news and notes when we return on the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Sometimes nothing beats a classic. Miller Lite, the original light beer, brewed with great taste and only 96 calories, available for delivery. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories, 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way. Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
Honey, big news.
Gary, are you okay?
Oh, I'm not Gary anymore. I'm Jackie Flash.
What?
See, I want the latest smartphone, but the best deals are only for new customers. So, to get a new customer deal, I changed my name to Jackie Flash.
Okay, but the best smartphone deals at AT&T are for everyone, new and existing customers.
That's huge. Then guess who's getting a deal?
Is it Jackie Flash?
Jackie Flash.
It's not complicated. At AT&T, our best smartphone deals are for everyone. Restrictions apply. Visit att.com for details.
Before there was a draft, you could size up a cowboy by 3 simple factors: the crease in his hat, the bend of his brim, and his unbending attitude. A man's Stetson didn't just protect him from what life threw at him, it projected a rugged, unstoppable spirit. Stetson hats are still American-made with pride right here in Texas. They're still the unofficial crown of all self-respecting cowboys, and Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Find a retailer nearest you at Stetson.com/Cowboys.
Sometimes nothing beats a classic. Miller Lite, the original light beer, brewed with great taste and only 96 calories, available for delivery. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories, 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Back here for the final 10 minutes of the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. Of course, as always, brought to you by Miller Lite. Now, once again, I want to remind you we are switching things up next week in terms of the lineups that are between all of us, and I will get you those updated shifts whenever I can pull it up on my phone. But before then, I want to get into Pro Day news and notes. And Dane, I mean, really the biggest impressions that were on me whenever it came to Pro Day was, of course, the run from Patrick Surtain on the 40-yard dash. Was it an official 4.46? Is that what the official time was? But that was a lot quicker than I was anticipating. And then, of course, Jaycee Horn and what he was able to do at his Pro Day. But were there any other Pro Days, or those specifically, that stood out to you?
Those definitely stood out. I don't think either of those two guys, maybe they don't necessarily play to that speed consistently, but it's I don't think that their speed was a little bit of a question. And I think they answered that, obviously, whether or not they actually play to that speed. So great to see from both those corners. They cemented themselves as top 15, top 17 type guys. Other pro days, Penn State's going on right now, and Jason Owe and Micah Parsons are both putting on a show, which to be expected. I mean, Micah Parsons is a complete freak, and he said that Jason Owe is a bigger freak, and so far we've seen it. Parsons looked like he was at a 4.3. Jason Owe was at a 4.3, and this is a defensive end we're talking about. So for those asking why a guy with 0 sacks is in my first round at a pass rusher, that's exactly why, because he's a physical freak and he's still disruptive in the pocket, even if he doesn't have those sack numbers. So what Penn State's doing right now is certainly jumping off the screen at me.
Rondale Moore, not that anything that he did was surprising, but
all 5'7" of them.
He's all 5'7", and I forgot what weight he came in at, but surprise, he runs a 4.29, and his vertical is 1,000,000 inches. He's a stud athlete. He's just tiny.
Can we talk about a guy that I know Jeff likes, but I would say his Pro Day was not excellent. Again, I'm still very skeptical of Pro Day times. Mm-hmm. I'm never going to get over that, probably. But Shakur Brown, the cornerback at Michigan State, I had him at 5'10", measured out at 5'9". Okay, that's fine. Ran a 4.61. I don't know if that's really it. It's not terribly surprising for a Pro Day, I guess. I mean, I kind of thought...
That's bad for a Pro Day, KT.
Oh, I thought he
did a science project once upon a time where they compared Combine and Pro Day times, and if you're going handheld to Combine, in theory, you add about 0.06. So now my guy is small and runs maybe a 4.7. That hurts my guy.
I thought he was a 4.5 guy. I didn't think he was a 4.4 guy, and then he got 4.61. So
yeah, well,
a little disappointing Pro Day.
Same thing, your guy, Ardarius Washington, running the 4.6s. That was surprising. I mean, I thought he'd run a little bit better than that. So
Dane's going after Jeff's guy.
The difference between Brown and Washington is my level of love. So with Washington, I don't care because he plays faster than any safety in college football. So we're fine. We're not worried about him. Brown is going to get dropped. It's a matter of how much you love, and I love Ardarius, and nothing can stop us. And we are making a Billy Madison-style list of everybody who's doubting. We're keeping track.
Oh, good. I'm glad that's the case. I love that.
Not that we're going to take any action on the list. We just want to know who it was.
No, he's been a fourth rounder for me this entire process, and nothing has changed for me. He's
going to be the greatest. I can't wait till the Cowboys take him in the fourth because I love drafting Pro Bowlers in the fourth. It's going to be awesome.
Can't wait to call up Jeff during week 8 and say, "Hey man, I'm sorry I was wrong about Ardarius Washington," and then Jeff marks me off. Jeff marks me off the list, and then put some lipstick on.
Yeah, and those are things I do. Those are things I do all the time. Excuse me.
I'm going to do that.
Florida State had a really fast track at their Pro Day. Asante Samuel ran really well. He came in at 5'10", 180, and he ran at 4.38, which is really good to see for him. He's under 7 seconds in a 3-cone. And then the pass rushers with Janaris Robinson, Kane Doe, both those guys ran really well. Tamarion Terry, the wide receiver at 6'3", 207, ran the 4.4s. So Florida State has a pretty good showing from their athletes.
What does that do for Samuel's stock? I mean, whenever it comes to him in the corners, he's still on the outside looking in of at least what we thought was the original top 3 with Farley, Surtain, and Horn. But now, with it being the top 2, is he still on the outside looking in of the top 3, or is he right on that cusp?
I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in the first round. I got a thing that's happening in my brain with corners because I'm a visual person, so I love like the spider graphs that show you what percentile guys are among prospects. But I have a problem with the corner one because we say you're in the 100th percentile if you're like 6'3". Like, congrats on being tall. There is a point where at corner I don't think that's helping you. I would much rather my corner be 6 foot than 6'4". So at 5'10", that doesn't bother me much, other than Clemson throwing jump balls on him. I think Asante Samuel, I don't think his stock, for me anyway, would move because I kind of anticipated 5'10", 4'4" guy, and really good player, and that's what he is.
Dane, I might have to go. I'm not sure if, Jeff, if you've watched this guy. Dane, can you give us a little more on Chauncey Goldston from Iowa? Because he had an outstanding pro day as well over at Iowa, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Chauncey Goldston. Like, if you get to the day 3, because he's not going to go top 100, I don't think.
Yeah.
But you get to day 3, he'd be one of those defensive linemen that I'd be itching to get because he gives you inside-outside versatility. He plays long. He plays quick. He's got outstanding instincts, for the football. And so he's just a well-rounded, polished player who can start, but I think it's more about the versatility he gives you up and down the line. Just a quality player who probably more of a role player for you on defense, and you need those guys. So I would absolutely look to target him in the 4th or 5th round.
You'll get 4 years of cheap NFL football out of him, and he will play all 4 of them.
That's good.
Right.
I like that. Okay, Dane, can you tell me more about Nate Hobbs? Because when you look at his pro day numbers, that kind of stuck out to me as well. 4.38 unofficial on the 40, had a 6.68 3-cone. His vertical was up over 40 inches. What can you say about the corner from Illinois?
Let me give you his official. 5'11", so 5'11" 3/8, 196 pounds.
Okay.
4.46 in the 40, 40 and a half vert, 11.3 broad, 6.85 3-cone. He's a really talented player who got into some trouble. His sophomore year, suspended a few games. He was hurt a little bit this past year, but he's athletic and he's tough, and I would not be shocked at all if Hobbs got drafted late. Wasn't a combine guy, but I thought he did enough at his pro day. And that's what pro days. Pay attention to these pro days at this time of year, because this is where it's guys that show out and run really well or do something exceptionally well. Those guys can get into the draft, even though they were previously thought of as maybe to be undrafted or PFA type. So Nate Hobbs is one of them. Wouldn't be shocked if he sneaks his way into the late rounds.
Nice. Okay, I saw those numbers and they kind of stuck out to me. Now, we talked earlier about Jeff having the call, or whoever having the call about Ardarius Washington and being wrong or being right. I'm going to take a moment to tell Dane once again that he was right and that I was wrong, because Jalen Darden had his pro day today. And Jalen Darden, the wide receiver out of North Texas, has been my pet cat from day one, even before day one, because of my allegiance to the mean green. However, today he ran a 40 time after measuring at 5'7" and a half. He ran a 40 time that was in the 4.6, 4.7 range. Still awaiting on the official time, but it was much slower than I anticipated.
Don't back down, Kyle.
4.6, 4.7 scares me a lot, Jeff Kavanaugh. On film, he plays faster.
Well,
he plays way faster, but it's 4.6, 4.7.
There's no way.
Is he a baller?
He is a baller. I will say he's a baller. Yes.
Don't back down. If the guy's a baller, he's a baller.
I don't know. That number scares me a lot.
There's no way he's not a 4.6 athlete.
I don't think so either.
I don't.
Blew my mind when I saw that that time.
That's why you ignore it. You got to trust the tape. Sometimes you just get to throw stuff out. You say, "No, he's faster than that. I don't care."
No, he's fat. But he is 5'7", and that shows up on the tape. Where just a small target, and because of that, he likes to freelance his routes. He's just a small target, and for those reasons, I don't think he goes top 100. But he's still a quality player who, with that speed, I get Jakeem Grant type of vibes from him. So I don't know. Did he stumble? Did they mark off a 45-yard dash? Something's going on there.
Yeah, he's a I mean, he's a 4.45 guy.
So I'm looking at another tweet. I'm looking at another tweet right now. His second 40 that he ran. First one was in 4.6, 4.7, and then unofficial in his second was a 4.46. So much better, but still not as fast as I was kind of hoping he would go. I thought it'd be like a 4.4.
Okay, they had to remeasure it. Yeah.
So
yeah, he ran 44 yards.
He ran 44 instead of the 40 straight up. Instead, he ran 38 yards the next time out, as Brian Broaddus would love to say. But hey, 4.46 is a lot better than 4.6.
Strong winds.
Well, it's indoor.
Track. Yeah,
it's indoor. Yeah, they got the indoor
lines,
working now.
You know how it is at UNT, isn't always the best at kind of measuring things and numbers.
Chill.
Figure that out.
I'm going to come and fight you, Mr. ACU. We're going to figure it out. We both got to win in the tournament. Just be happy, okay? Goodness gracious.
We did it.
We're a music and art school. We've never said, hey, UNT, come here for math.
I would say we're a broadcasting school.
They didn't know where the finish line was.
That's not the case either. But that's going to do it for us here on the Draft Show. Glad you've been with us here over the last hour. Once again, hope you learned something, investigating and educating with us. But we'll be back on Tuesday. Completely different set of guys. Tuesday, Brian, Dane, Jeff. That'll be a lot of fun with those guys. And then you can get KT with Bucky and Dave on Thursday. So if you want more KT, he'll be next Thursday as well. The normal time for Mr. Kevin KT Turner. But
tear Bucky up on running backs. KT.
It's going to be fun.
Come on, get him.
This is going to be fun. We'll switch it up every week from here until the draft, and then we'll be back to the normal cruise whenever it's the week of the draft. But until then, for Jeff Kavanaugh, for Kevin KT Turner, Dane Brugler, and of course Chris Beam back in studio, I'm Kyle Yeomans. Thanks for joining us here on the Draft Show.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this,